Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the new information on action that the EU is proposing to take in the event of Boris Johnson triggering a trade war as they switch from trying to work on solutions to help the British government and instead onto leverage. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. Okay, so the fact of the matter is that the EU and the UK both signed up to the Northern Ireland Protocol freely. In my opinion, both of them were wrong to do so. The UK signed up to it dishonestly because they denied many of the consequences of the protocol, even when they were written clearly in the text. Journalists would put it to the Prime Minister and other ministers, but the protocol says we have to do this, and they would just go, no, don't. The EU were wrong to do it because they must have known they were dealing with a known liar, even by the standards of politicians, and that the consequences of the protocol would be politically bad for the Conservatives. In other words, I'm not saying they should have known he would renege, but they should have at least factored in the thought that he might. But it's done. It's done now. Boris Johnson does not get to say that the EU should be the ones coming up with solutions to problems that he did not identify before the agreement was signed. It is for him to find solutions to something that only his side sees as a problem and was not raised during negotiations. But the EU have been coming up with solutions and presenting a very generous set of measures recently to tackle some of the customs difficulties that Boris Johnson, remember, signed up to. Boris Johnson and his pet unelected Brexit Minister David Frost weren't impressed, however. Now, people close to the situation have been getting the strong impression, building up over some time, that Johnson is going to suspend parts of the protocol at some point. And now there's a belief that it's very imminent this month, maybe even next week. Now, we don't know that he definitely will. I know it seems inevitable, but Britain can't survive the trade war that is to come. Doesn't mean Johnson can't survive it politically, but it would surely be a huge risk. On the other hand, he gets a lot of gain, as we've already discussed, in constantly threatening to abolish the protocol without actually doing it. But if the current corruption scandal threatens his position, so let's say, remember, he just wants to be Prime Minister. If Tory MPs, which they are at the moment, are starting to talk about him, maybe he shouldn't be Prime Minister, a trade war might bring a useful distraction for the public and a unifying cause for his MPs. It might also be that he triggers Article 16 just to buy time. Remember, triggering Article 16 isn't suspending the protocol. Article 16 doesn't let you trigger the protocol. Article 16 just creates a month of intense talks before any action is permissible. And even then, the action that Boris Johnson's talking about is still not permissible. But all Article 16 does is say you've got an issue, you should spend a month talking about it. So maybe Johnson will trigger Article 16 to make out that he's acting tough with the EU, have their month of talks, then he'll accept the offer that the EU have already made and pretend he has won some huge concessions by his tough action. Who knows? But people still think he actually wants the trade war. So the past few days has seen the Republic of Ireland drawing up contingency plans in the event of a trade war, and off-the-record briefings about what the EU might do to avert this crisis at the 11th hour. Basically, the EU have tried the carrot, now it's the stick. Now, I'd already discussed recently the prospect of the EU cancelling the trade and cooperation agreement, so the whole Brexit deal just gone. But they can't do that immediately. You have to put a timer on it. So the move could see it end on the 1st of January 2023, after which, no deal Brexit. But that wouldn't necessarily concern Johnson, who only sees problems that are here now, not ones which won't explode for a year. That move could put pressure on some Tory MPs, especially so-called Red Wall MPs, but not necessarily Boris Johnson. But they need something in the short term. Now, I saw a comment quoting a senior EU official as saying that in order to avoid escalation, because that's what they want to do, they want to avoid this trade war. In order to avoid escalation, you have to demonstrate escalation dominance. So the EU, in wanting to stop this trade war, in order to do so, they have to demonstrate to Johnson that they will win. It's all right having the biggest bomb if it isn't set to go off until 2023. They need a salvo of something that will hit right away. Now, there are measures permitted in the Trade and Cooperation Agreement to balance action from the other side. Now, you will no doubt, if you haven't already, see over the next week or so comments about it being inappropriate to use measures from the Trade and Cooperation Agreement to deal with disputes over the withdrawal agreement. This is not the case. The remedial measures detailed in the Trade and Cooperation Agreement relate to any action which the other side takes to cause a negative effect on trade between them. If Johnson suspends parts of the protocol that remove checks, then there exists the possibility for various goods to pass into the EU that should not be doing so. This might be goods where tariffs are due, for example. Remember that we don't actually have a tariff-free trade deal. That's a nonsense, despite what the government say. It's only tariff-free if the goods meet rules of origin requirements. Much of what we manufacture doesn't. So there's tariffs on it. So the EU can take remedial action in response to a breach of the Northern Ireland Protocol, because such a breach represents a loss of revenue for the EU, who should be able to collect those tariffs on those goods. And this will be caused by an action from the UK that was not permitted when the treaties were signed. But where there does exist a problem in my mind is there's supposed to be dispute resolution talks first, just like there is with the Northern Ireland Protocol. But I did see comments that the EU believe that there are clauses which would permit immediate tariff retaliation, as it was put. So that means that the EU could carry out a range of measures against Johnson's move with a sliding scale of timing. So some things, yes, would have to be put off, but other things could be done straight away. It might appear that the EU believe that they could apply some tariffs immediately. Or at least immediately as the government suspends parts of the protocol. Remember, if Johnson wants to try and pretend that his move is legal, he will have to submit a month of talks first. So even if Johnson, let's say Johnson this weekend announces that he's triggering Article 16, that doesn't mean on Monday a load of checks at the Irish Sea border stop. Assuming he wants to play along, it will mean a month of talks before anything at all happens. Basically a month of shouting at the newspapers, really. Which, as I say, might be in Johnson's interests. Right now, the papers are going on about Tory corruption scandals. This would give the papers something else to talk about, and he can probably rely upon most of them to report it largely in terms that are likely to unite readers and viewers with his government. Like I say, if Johnson doesn't actually want to start a trade war, he can still trigger Article 16, initiate the month of talks, and end them by accepting the EU's offer and claim victory. A month of nonsense where the UK government accepts what was on the table 2 months prior. But right now, the EU are working on the assumption that Johnson does want a trade war and thinks that it will be beneficial to him. He is apparently meeting with his cabinet colleagues about this either tomorrow or Friday. David Frost is meeting Maros Sefcovic on Friday, where Sefcovic is believed to be letting Frost know exactly what the EU intend to do in the event of a trade war, the aim being to try and prevent Johnson making a bad miscalculation. Doesn't help either side to get into a conflict where it becomes impossible to defuse it without both sides being able to save face, especially as the UK have made it abundantly clear that they will completely tank the UK economy to gain their political aims. The EU need to be mindful of this, I think. They're not going to stop Johnson in purely economic terms. Economic damage to the country is not going to stop him. That economic damage has to result in political damage or it will be useless. That's the trick, really. Inflicting economic damage that has to be reported as such when you know you're dealing with an opposing side whose government and media care nothing for the country and will claim black is white. One of the first sectors to be hit by the planned action is supposed to be Brexit's poster boy, fishing, which would certainly be reported. But I think given that British fishermen have already been massively screwed over by Brexit and are either unable or unwilling to apply pressure to Tory MPs, maybe both, I'm not sure what impact that will really have. But the measures would also likely involve the ramping up of checks on goods passing from Britain to surrounding EU countries. Remember, Macron threatened this over the fishing dispute recently. But other countries could do it as well as France. Now that would create queues of lorries that even the lorry parks won't hide. That may actually be the first direct cause of the trade war that we see here in Britain in a way that cannot be denied. But the bottom line is that the EU have moved from trying to work on solutions to working on legal reprisals for the expected, though, as I say, not inevitable as yet, trade war. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.